I have something to say again. This will be the first installment of White Hallway, which is podcast, not podcast, where I talk about literally whatever I want to the overlay of me making my webtoon, White Hallway. It's a sort of Subway Surfer effect where it's not just me yapping at you, there's also a lot of visual stimuli happening. Okay, so Subway Surfer, replace it with time lapse of me making my webtoon. Today, I want to talk about holy cow, it sucks to be in your 20s. Specifically in this day and age, and I'm talking from the experience of an American. I feel that is important. I think depending on where you're at, your experience can be a little bit different. Also, this isn't just about living in your 20s. It's kind of applicable across the board. I'm just speaking from my own experience. I'm 26, gonna be 27 soon. I'm still in the thick of it. I could listen to a million people talk about this topic. I have. Thanks, YouTube. Recommendations. So I wanted to kind of join the conversation. It's not gonna be super informative. I'm just gonna complain. I'm gonna complain, and then at the end I kind of want to share what I've learned so far. Still in the thick of it. Again, I don't know anything about anything, but I'd like to talk about the lessons I've learned so far that I think have been pretty valuable to me and I've applied throughout my experience so far. I'm recording this in the tail end of August 2025. Things are dicey, huh? Things are a little bit dicey. Okay, so I kind of want to touch on what it means to be in your 20s. To me, this is the period where you transition from being in high school to maybe going to college, or from going to college to going into the workforce, or maybe you skip college, going right into the workforce. It's the transition of going from being a kid to an adult. The brutal transition. Actually, this is a good topic to start off the White Hallway podcast with, because it actually inspired the conception of White Hallway for me. White Hallway is an allegory of the brutality of entering the world, specifically as an adult, and just how crazy tough that transition could be like. And it's just hyper amplified in the world of White Hallway. That kind of inspired the story a bit. So this is a really good topic to start off on. The transition from your teenage years into adulthood, or at least what would society would consider adulthood, your 20s. This is really tough, and I think there's a lot of reasons it's tough. The first reason I can think of is that you go from living with your family, with your close friends, they're nearby, a community, potentially people that you're familiar with, unless you had a really peculiar upbringing where you're moving around a lot and things aren't super stable. You go from a somewhat stable place of being, you don't have to worry about bills, things like that, to pure isolation, especially in the US, where it's the most unwalkable country in the world. Public transportation is garbo, so it's really difficult to get from one place to the next, much less have a third space to be at where you can meet friends, kind of hang out. Also, thanks to this economy, it's getting really tough to do that. That's why I really think everyone should be in an online community in some sense. Just have some socialization going on, even if it's not in person, especially if you come from college. Being around all the people your same age, having that be really accessible to make friends with, to entering the workforce where you have all different people of all different ages. Maybe they're way older than you. And it's difficult to make friends, not just at work, but outside of work. If all your time is going to a job, then it's really difficult to cultivate friendships outside of that job. And that's probably the best place to make friends, is your job, because you're there all the time, kind of like school. You're there all the time, but not every workspace is the same. It's gonna be harder. So that's the first point. Going from having a somewhat secure social life, household, to just pure isolation, having to thug it out and really be active in your pursuit of relationships, whether that be platonic or romantic. Okay, the second reason I think being in your 20s is really hard is because you're forced to confront the question of, who the heck am I? Who am I? This comes up in job interviews. They ask you, what are your hobbies? What do you enjoy? This comes up with meeting new people and friends. You are confronted with, who are you? This is the first time in your life, unless you're still living at home, where you are in isolation and needing to figure out, and without any sort of parameters or rules to live by, to just figure out who the heck you are. I think it's important for everyone to spend time with themselves without any external input to answer that question, or at least start answering that question. But it's a scary one. I feel like it's one most people feel like they need to answer to. Like, who am I? I don't think there's a concrete answer for anyone. Like who I am right now is probably not who I'm going to be a year from now. There going to be similarities for sure, but we're just ever evolving. But that's a question I feel that's heavy on everyone's mind in their 20s. Who the heck am I? What do I want to do? What are my morals? What are my goals in life? Who do I want to be in 10 years? Don't ever ask me what my 5-year plan is. Oh my God. What matters to you? These are all questions you're forced to confront in your 20s because you're an adult now. And these things help inform the decisions you're forced to make in your 20s. When it comes to decisions, it's definitely a really hard time to be an adult, much less a new adult within the US right now. The economy, holy moly. Unless you're living under a rock, it is very clear to tell the economy and job market are in the can right now. The can. Why is McDonald's expensive? Why is there more value and it's arguably cheaper to eat at Chili's than it is to get something at McDonald's? That's crazy. That's insane. The politics in the US, it doesn't matter what side you sit on, and it does a little bit actually at this point, what side you sit on. But I think we can all agree that the politics in this nation has gotten out of hand. A couple months back, I was rewatching, reminiscing on the good times, some older debates between Obama and Mitt Romney and Obama and John McCain. And just the level of class upheld by both sides, that's completely done away with in today's day and age. And I miss it. The level of class is just gone. We're supposed to be respectable as Americans. That's just completely out the window these days. Politics in the can. Hey, why is interracial marriage on the table? Enough said. Some of the decisions you have to make in your 20s involve a lot of future proofing. So things like financial decisions. Where are you going to live and set up shop? Are you going to invest in buying a house? Can you not afford to? Can you rent? Okay, what rent do you want to get? Is it close to where your job's at? Can you afford being close to where your job's at? If it's in the city. Do you want kids? What do you need to make your life look like to have kids? Do you want an animal? Can you take care of an animal right now? Is your career stable? Did you make the right choice with the degree you're in? Do you need to switch and get another degree? Do you need to pivot in your career? Is maybe what you studied not what you thought it was going to be and you don't enjoy it? There's a lot of future proofing going on in your 20s, and that's super intimidating. It's kind of like I've always thought it was crazy that you force kids to confront taking on immeasurable amounts of debt for things like student loans when it comes to going to school in the US, and you're putting all that on a kid who doesn't fully grasp what that even means. And there's just more and more of that in your 20s. Editing Adriana here, I also wanted to note that this kind of thought process applies outside of like long-term situations. In the moment decision making, you have to figure out what you're going to eat at least 3 times a day. You have to figure out how you're going to get from point A to point B, when and how to get chores done, budgeting and finances, scheduling, especially if you have a full-time job, working stuff around that. You have to be in charge of everything. All of a sudden you go from responsibilities being allocated to other people to all of a sudden everything's on you. Everything's on you. Back to the job market, holy moly. So I saw somewhere a stat that was something like 60% of last year's college graduates, so 2024, have yet to land an entry-level role. 60% is insane. That's crazy. And it's because everything is so oversaturated. The market is incredibly dense right now. It's so hard to compete, especially when you have industry veterans. And I'm not talking just about the creative field, which is what I'm a part of, but every field getting laid off, pivoting to another sector or another aspect of their career. And it's just flooding the market with overqualified people versus newbies, entry-level people. And it creates a dynamic where the employer has all the power. They're going to go for, or at least aim for, offering a role to someone with hella experience, but for an entry-level rate, then they are going to offer the role to someone who's actually entry-level. If they can swing getting an experienced person to accept an entry-level rate, they succeed. And they can do that now. This is the employer's market, which is, I think, never good. Some might argue it's good for the employer, but also, yeah, most employers need to count on a thriving economy to stay in business. And the only way to have an economy thrive is if people are employed and getting paid enough to live. So I don't know how that's going to work. It's not. Spoiler alert, it's definitely not. I'm just waiting for everything to come to a head, which is very scary. Me personally, I feel like your 20s are so hard is because your frontal lobe, science, your frontal lobe should be like fully developed in your mid 20s. I think for men, it's late 20s. I'm not sure if that's a myth or not. But your frontal lobe. Things I care about now are things I didn't even care to think about in my early 20s or as a teenager. I was very short-term focused and not really long-term focused. I wasn't really considering consequences of my actions all that often. And I feel like my frontal lobe developing changes that dramatically, which is both a good and a bad thing, right? It's good to think long term, but that also introduces, I think it's called decision paralysis, where choices become harder and harder to make just because you have so many of them and you're worried about making the wrong one. And overthinking become more and more of a thing in my life. I really think since I turned 24, 25, this has been introduced. I'm 26 now, so I feel like I have enough data to accurately deduce that this changed dramatically around this time. So your 20s are just like, it's so much going on, man. The future's uncertain and that is scary. And everything is on you to make happen. It's like that one meme that's like, you're telling me I have to I have to contribute to how my future looks. I'm in charge of molding my future. Oh no. That's scary. It's both scary and empowering. It can be scary because, at least for me, this is what I consider scary about that. Not everything is in your control, but in that same vein, what I can control is what I will control. What I can't control is my response to what I can't control. The feeling of being directionless is common. And by the way, I will note something that I'm sure everyone has figured out by now. No one knows what they're doing. Not in their 20s, 30s, 40s. Even people I thought I was like, they know what's up. They know what they're doing. I've checked in with them recently and they're still figuring it out, man, which is scary and comforting because I'm like, okay, well, if you were still figuring it out, kind of disappointing. I thought I would get to the point where I didn't feel this way, but at least we're in the same boat and this is a shared experience. Yeah, this is older people. I feel like no one knows what they're doing, even the people that claim they do or it looks like they do. Even those people, let's entertain the idea of, okay, here's this person that knows what they're doing, has all their ducks in a row, everything's going great for them, luck has been on their side. They will encounter something in life that will force them to confront the concept of, I don't know what I'm doing. Life does that, okay? So it's good to kind of get this experience early, I guess, of how to deal with that feeling of not knowing what you're doing and figuring it out along the way. There's a few lessons that I've learned so far in my 20s. I actually want to make a whole separate video about this. I love the tag of 27 things I've learned in 27 years, or that kind of format of video. I love that. I want to do one of my own. I've already started the list and it's more than 27, so I have to narrow it down to stuff that really has impacted my life. But for this topic specifically, lessons I've learned so far in my 20s, as someone who's still in the thick of it, I'm going to be 27 in like 3 months here. Still in the thick of it. I'm still learning and I don't know anything about anything, but I do know these few things applied to me. And the first thing I've learned is to listen to older people. Listen to people who've already lived life. They've played the game before, man. They're going to let you know how to play it yourself. And yes, the world evolves and changes into a different one that maybe they grew up with. But there's still a lot of transferable knowledge that they can offer that I think is just, you should always listen to your elders, especially people who are where you kind of want to be in life, where that's like they're financially secure, they're happy with their jobs, they have a really good family union. Just more specifically, listen to people who are where you want to be at. And if those people are older, even better. If you don't have these people in your life, look online. One of my favorite brand video is just older person talking directly to camera, no edits, giving out advice. No music. It's the audio is pretty okay, and they're just straight out dishing knowledge. That's the best kind of video to watch. I feel like those kind of videos have helped me through my 20s. Second lesson I've learned so far is definitely be a stupid idiot with everything but drugs and money. I feel like your teens and 20s are the time to be stupid, to try things that some people might be like, hey, that's stupid, don't do that. This is the time. You need to live a little bit of life. And I would say do that with everything but drugs and money. I feel like this is pretty straightforward, the logic there. Don't want to get addicted to drugs, definitely not good. And don't want to have money troubles, don't get into massive debt. Put some thought into those kind of decisions, but for other things, I think you could be more flexible and kind of be stupid in your 20s, and you should be stupid. That's where the life experience comes in. That's those kind of stupid experiences answer that question of who am I? Another lesson I've learned is prioritize your health. Definitely. It ain't cute to wreck your body. I feel like that's become normalized. I think something like blatant alcoholism, that's just an example. That's way too normalized in our society. I know like people are drinking less and less in our generation, but all right, this can be applied to things like poor diet, exercise, or even like your mental health, bed rotting too often. You gotta catch that. Prioritize your health. A lot of the decisions you make in your 20s are going to impact how you feel, how you literally feel in your 30s and 40s and 50s. That's super important. And I think it's way too normalized to take that for granted and to just wreck your body in your 20s. And I don't think that's good. I think be a stupid idiot sometimes and have those moments, right, where you're wrecking your body, but don't make that a habit. For the most part, I think it should be a priority for everyone to prioritize their health. Definitely is for me. It's a lesson I've learned. This one may be controversial. You ever heard from either people your age or older people say, there is no timeline? I'm going to keep it a buck with you. For some things, there is a timeline, okay? I'll give an example. If you want kids, especially as a woman, there is a timeline on that. There is a timeline on that. If you want to have like birth a being, then there's a timeline on that. If you want financial security, there can be a timeline on that. If you want to retire by a certain age, there's definitely a timeline on that. So there is a timeline on some things. And I think that's important to recognize. I think a sense of urgency is good for survival, just in general, right? It's kind of like if you're driving in a road at night and you see a deer cross the road, or like a duck or something, and they're just taking their sweet old time as these massive structures of metal come hurtling their way, and you're just like, okay, where's the survival instinct of this animal? I think it's good to have some sense of urgency, but too much urgency is anxiety, for sure, and that's not good, right? I think it's good to keep a balance and to recognize where there is a timeline on certain things, to start actioning out how to achieve those things that you may be wanting that have a timeline, and to give yourself grace for things that don't have a timeline. So I'd say things that don't have a timeline are like getting married, adopting an animal, buying a house, being at a certain place in your career. I don't think these things have a set timeline. Like I love the stories of older people in their 60s and 70s going back to school. That's so cute and sweet, and I love that for them. Those sort of things don't have a timeline, but some things do. And I think it's good to recognize what those things are. And that's helped me kind of center my focus instead of being all over the place. It's helped me get over that decision paralysis that I think a lot of people, including myself, face in order to tackle those goals that I have that are impacted by a timeline. Another lesson I've learned, thank you, Caleb Hammer, is to avoid debt at nearly all cost. You don't need that brand new car. It's a depreciating asset. You don't need that brand new car. You don't need to lock yourself into a mortgage that you can't afford reliably. You can't, it might be good to get a starter home that you can reliably afford, but not a hardcore mortgage. What if you lose your job? All these things. Make smart decisions. Try to avoid debt. You don't need this, that, and this to buy and to rack up your credit card, especially. All right. Avoid it at all costs. And focus on paying off any debt you do have. With me, the only debt I have right now, I have some credit card debt. I usually have a healthy amount of credit card debt a month that I instantly pay off. But because I have a wedding coming up in now about 3 weeks, there have been some additional spending that I've been doing that I'm confident I can reliably pay off in the near term. But other than that, I have student loan debt that I really want to focus on tackling this next year because I just don't want to think about it anymore. I don't want it over my head. I don't want to pay the monthly payments that are literally just covering the interest accrued and not even the actual debt I have. Pay attention to your student loans, you guys, or any sort of debt you have. Make sure you're paying above the minimums because the minimums usually just cover the interest accrued, or not even that, and then you're just racking up more debt. Okay, please pay attention to that. I really truly feel like being completely out of debt is the first step to financial freedom, because if you don't owe anyone anything, you can just focus on covering your bills, and that can be flexible depending on what you sign up for. Ooh, this is another lesson I've learned in my 20s is to not take my job too seriously. Let me explain. I feel like everyone should take their job serious to a degree. If you're getting paid to do something, you should be doing that job to the best of your ability, especially if you're getting paid well. In the US, that's a problem. It's a problem. Most people can't afford to live, much less like thrive. But I do believe like if you're getting paid for something, do your best to do a good job at that job. However, a job is still a job. Most corporations, most jobs, they don't care about you. They will throw you out at a moment's notice. They can easily replace you. And I think you got to take that same energy and put it back into your job. You got to be like, unless this is something you have a personal stake in, like your own business or it's a friend's company, whatever, you're there to do your job and that's it. Especially if it's a place where going above and beyond isn't rewarded. What is your motivation to go above and beyond? You're there to do a job, do your job, okay? Going above and beyond doesn't need to happen unless it is incentivized and rewarded. This is a lesson I've had to learn. I was caring too much about my job. I was caring more about my job than my bosses, which is a recipe for disaster. And I was thinking about my job outside of working hours. It was just consuming my every waking hour. And no, that's just not healthy. It's not good. And it doesn't leave space for things that I enjoy. That's a lesson I learned. This one might be a little cringe. It's really been helpful for me to start viewing experiences that I don't particularly enjoy as learning lessons. This may be slight cope. This may be a coping moment, but it has been helpful, okay? So let me use an example. You know how you can kind of tell when if someone grew up as a single child, or if they weren't told no a lot growing up, or if they grew up in a place of privilege. You can kind of tell certain things from people or assume a lot about someone based on your interactions with them, your experiences with them. Well, I hope someone can tell in the future that I had both really good and really bad bosses, and this contributed to me being a good boss or a good coworker because of the lessons I learned through my experience in the workforce. I hope someone can tell that I've had experience with both good and bad friendships because my practice of being a friend is a good one. Am I making sense? What I'm trying to say here is it's been helpful to look at experiences like maybe a bad day at work or a financial struggle or something as a learning opportunity. Like, okay, I'm going through this so that when I am in a better environment, I can really appreciate that environment. Or when I, let's say, if I wanted to start a business, if and when I start a business, I know what not to do because this is what I experienced working here. And that's how I'm trying to reframe things in my head. It's been helpful because otherwise it's very easy to slip into that mindset of, why is this happening to me? And I think that's good. That's a healthy I still have a healthy dose of, why is this happening to me? But I'm trying to put into practice, okay, I maybe don't need to know the exact reason why, but I'm choosing to believe it's so I can learn something from this. Those are the main points I've learned so far being in my 20s. It's really hard. It's hard, but I think we often make it harder than it needs to be. And this is also coming from someone who has been really lucky in my life. I've had a lot of really great opportunities fall from the sky for me, and I'm in a good place right now in my career and kind of everything. That sounds a bit like braggy. Believe me, there's a lot that could be improved. I think a lot of it is just us being hard on ourselves in our 20s. I guess it kind of ties back to that timeline thing. There's this concept of, and social media doesn't help this, oh, I need to be at a certain place in my 20s. I should be living in a high-rise apartment in New York, and I should be driving this fancy car, and I should be going to Pilates and all this stuff. No, that's not realistic, and it's also not fair. Everyone is on their own timeline and has their own experience in life. I think really what everyone in their 20s should be offering themselves is grace. Give yourself the room to be okay with where you are right now, and also grace enough to push yourself to where you want to be. I don't know if I have anything else to say on this topic. I think I've been yapping enough. I think that's enough for today. I don't know if this has been helpful at all. If anything, I just hope someone in their 20s who's watching this can understand that it's hard for everybody. Even the people that may look like they have it all together and they're doing super well. It's tough. It's a tough time for everyone. Just give yourself grace, give the people around you grace, and just keep chugging on. Just keep swimming. I think that's the best advice overall anyone could give to anyone is just keep on. All right, that's all I have to say for today. Let's see, how do I want to end this? Oh, I'll end this with a video recommendation. Oh my gosh, I hope I'm not butchering their name. Alea Blooms, her video on art during war, cultural looting, and how artists resist oppression. Very good. Very good, very interesting. She only has 360 subscribers, and this video, at the time of me talking about it, only has about 5.7k views. It deserves more views. It's a topic I love and am fascinated with, and she does a really good job breaking it down, so I encourage everyone to give it a watch. That's my YouTube recommendation for today. All right, well, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more. I think the next video I'll be making will either be a Sunday reset vlog where I tackle the chores I need to do, or well, I will definitely be making this video, a review on the new Alien Earth show. People are saying it's good, and I'm here to stand up against the crowd and say it's not at all. Which is surprisingly not a shared opinion. Anyways, we'll talk more about that in that video, but thanks for watching, and please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Bye.